Resistors can be combined in series end-to-end or in parallel where they're connected to each other at both ends. The rules for adding the resistance are different. If they're in series, you just add R1 plus R2. But if they're in parallel, you add them what I call upside down. So why is that? The basic reason is when you put two things in series, you're adding their lengths. You've got like length 1 and length 2. So the current has to fight its way through one resistor, and then it has to fight its way through another, so that makes it more difficult, higher resistance. On the other hand, here, you're not adding the lengths, you're adding the cross-sectional area. You've got area 1 here and area 2 there. It's like you're making a fatter resistor when you put them side by side, and a fatter resistor is actually easier to get through. So fundamentally, this formula, the resistance is the resistivity times the length over the area. That is why these are the rules. Because when you put them in series, you're adding the lengths, and the length is on top. But if you're putting them side by side, you're adding the areas, and the area is on the bottom here. So if I write 1 over R, I get area over rho L, and now I can add the areas. So effectively, we're just adding up the areas for these things. That's why those are series and parallel. For capacitors, it's the other way around. And the reason it's the other way around is because the formula for capacitance has area on top instead of on bottom. So if you want the capacitors to add, you would simply put them side by side, because then you'd have area 1 plus area 2. And capacitance in parallel would be capacitance 1 plus capacitance 2. But if you put them in series, you're not adding their areas. Instead, you're adding up their length. In the case of a capacitor, length is the gap, D. So if you put two capacitors like that, you're effectively just adding up the gaps, D1 and D2. Well, since D is on the bottom, that means you'd have to do 1 over CEQ is 1 over C1 plus 1 over C2. That's why resistors add in series, capacitors add in parallel.